can't do this without you guys. Thinking about you every day, and just thank you so very much for all your hard work and your putting yourself in front of harm's way. So again, I thank you for that. My guest tonight, here she comes. It's my cousin. Yes, my cousin through marriage, the one and only Ann Carroll. And the really cool part about this is she is, she really gets flies under the radar. She's not flashy like her cousin, but she's pretty awesome nonetheless, and she is right now. So this is pretty cool,
Hey,
really
Gar.
awesome that you're here.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Do you have headphones?
Yeah, I can put them on.
Yeah. No, I'm just wondering about the no. I just hear some background. That's what I was gonna say.
Okay. I'll put them on.
Yeah. Okay, that'll be better. Awesome. So cool, you guys are related. I have to go do an LPGA soon, but I'll watch later. Okay. Thanks, Michelle. Bye. Oh, that's perfect.
Okay.
Awesome. How are you?
I'm doing really good.
That's good.
We're doing well. We're hanging out together here at home. We're spending a lot of time together, which is nice. I have a 25-year-old and a 20-year-old at home. And we're actually really enjoying the time together. Justin's just got enchiladas in the oven, so can't wait to have those after. And
You know what? I think this is so. Chris Dickinson, right? So
yeah,
so he said what a really good idea is learn a new skill, and I thought he challenged a lot of his juniors to learn how to cook, and I thought that was one of his best ideas ever, right?
hmm
It was like really kind of neat to have new skills laid on where we're all sitting here kind of going, well, okay, what are we going to do, right? And I mean, Justin and Jackson, 25 and 22. I mean, Jackson's got his own online business going on, right? So, I mean, he's probably busy and doing
yep.
stuff. I mean, here's the really cool thing. So, everybody, I'm just going to bring you guys up to speed on how she's my cousin, okay? So, I kind of prompted that Ann's my cousin, and that's how I look at it. She's a cousin of mine through marriage. My very first cousin is Stephen Carroll, and he married this wonderful woman. And the best part about it is Steve was our national, CEO of the PGA of Canada. At the same time, was the executive director back in BC. But the really cool part was when he was working for the PGA of Canada, that's where he met you, and you were working at the Mississauga Golf and Country Club. And it's, your history, which a lot of people I don't think realize, just like you're very low key and you're very, very under the radar. I mean, you're not like flash and circumstance like your cousin, right? But one of the things I admire about you, and I got to tell this story. So everybody, just a little history lesson on this woman right here, okay? She's won 2 Ontario Amateurs, all right? She played for Florida State. She won a Futures Tour, the very first Futures Tour event she entered in when she was out of Florida State. She won countless Du Maurier Series events throughout her career. Amazing player. So she's dating Steve. Steve and Larry Longo come up to the Board of Trade to play with me. I've literally been playing golf for 4 years. You join us on the first hole on the first green. You have a bullseye putter. You walk onto the green. You drop a ball at 30 feet and go, "Hey, Doug, nice to meet you." Drain it. I look at Steve. I look at Larry. I go, "Who is this girl?" And you proceed to go out there and play just unbelievable golf. And I mean, the memory of that for me is kind of like just totally, totally etched into my brain, because it was like I couldn't believe just how amazing you were, but B, like how bubbly and effervescent and all this stuff. And I mean, it was really so cool, right? Because I mean, it was finally cool to see Steve. You could just tell you guys you hit it off immediately, and it was just going to be it for life, right? And it's true to this
Absolutely.
day. I mean, the two of you the really cool thing is for your guys' 25th wedding anniversary, he got you another ring.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Well, it was a biggie ring too.
Oh, this is true.
One of those biggie ones. But we actually went back to the Toronto Golf Club, where we actually met, because Dave Calling wanted to introduce us because he thought we'd be the perfect match and everything. And so we went back for our 25th wedding anniversary there. The professional at the club set us up with some champagne, and we had a nice lunch there, and it was really cool. It was a professional event, and he was running the event, and so it was really a neat time.
That's so cool. So I just had a quick question. Now we'll get into this a little bit better. So you grew up, your dad was a superintendent.
Hmm.
He helped build Cranberry Village. And your brother Dan, he's a superintendent, but he also built Tarandawa.
Hmm.
You come from you're the only girl of three other brothers, right? You have three brothers,
Right.
right? And so you kind of grew up as like a tomboy because you were playing golf to a
Yeah.
point. But it's really an interesting point because like you won two Ontario Ladies Championships, and you get to go play on a full ride Florida State when golf wasn't really, we're talking about the early 80s here when golf wasn't really a big thing for women to get, a scholarship and go play and then come out
Hmm.
and play, and especially Canadian.
Yeah.
How did that happen? How did you get to Florida State?
Well, the really cool story is I was sent from the Golf Ontario GAO
Hmm.
to on the Marlene Street Award Fund. I was sent to the Pinehurst North South Junior.
Oh, okay, cool.
So this was in summer of grade 12.
Okay.
So I was sent there. I stayed with this really, really amazing woman. She had a house very close to Pinehurst number 2. And she had maids and all of this stuff. And I was just kind of plucked out of Hanover thinking like, oh my goodness, what's this?
Yeah, right.
And so I played well there. And then she sponsored me for my first 2 years of college at a girls' finishing school in Columbia, Missouri, which is called Stevens College.
Wow.
Yes,
I didn't
me
even
at
know.
a finishing school.
I didn't know that part. That's
Yeah.
okay. See, I'm learning stuff. This is amazing.
So yeah, like I was enrolled in Seneca College for legal administration. I was going to go there in the fall, and her and her boyfriend at the time thought, you know what, let's get her to Stevens. And the cool part about that was there was this amazing golf coach there called her name is Ann Casey Johnstone,
Okay.
who was an incredible player at the time. Played a lot with Joanne Carner, and like little did I know, like she was so amazing until you always think the grass is always greener on the other side when I went to Florida State, but little did I know that she was such an incredible coach. That was my first real experience with a coach versus an instructor,
That's
right?
pretty.
Yeah, she was totally amazing, and we played around a lot of big schools in the like Illinois, Iowa, and we were a good team. We had good players on the team, and we competed, and I did 2 years there, and then I took a semester off, and then I went to Florida State. Some members at Westmount
Hmm.
got together and paid my airfare, and I was going down to try for the team, but if I didn't make the team, I was coming home. So it was like, okay, do or die. And I played well. They just came off winning the NCAAs
Oh, wow.
the year before. So there was some spots open. The coach had just recruited for that team, and once that team was done, he was kind of finished with it as well. So I got a scholarship, full ride scholarship, and then finished
Wow.
my degree there.
That's amazing. So now was Stevenson something like a JUCO? Was it like a junior college?
Yeah, exactly.
That's really a cool part because you have turned me to a person to help with students and a junior college. Like that's a lot of people think, oh, junior college, oh, it's not really the way to go. And I mean, I'll even go as far as most recently, Grace St. Germain. She went to
Hmm.
state, played a year at Daytona State, and then got a full ride to Arkansas.
Yeah,
Won a national title this year. So
yeah.
it's a really amazing thing that I think a lot of people don't realize how much a junior college can actually help. I have Kasey Walker, who didn't have the resume or the playing resume because she started in her high school to playing golf. Now
Right.
she's played for Eastern Florida State for the last 2 years and is ranked in the top 5 from junior college players and just signed a full ride to Florida Atlantic.
That's
So,
amazing.
right. So the really cool part about this is it's so neat to even hear your story that you go to a JUCO, ended up going to Florida State, play
Hmm.
amazing. And I mean, it's just a great story to see how you don't always have to hold out for that big ticket to
Right,
get to where you need to go.
right.
So a little comment by a fellow parent that we know, Mr. Weber. just commented, said, "Look at those couple of those great coaches on this live." Thank you, John. Appreciate
Oh, thanks, John.
it. Right, exactly. Yeah, what a great man. All right, so I'm gonna throw some names out at you here: Brianna Cooper, Natalie Gleedall, Taylor Schmidt, now Taylor Candler, to name a few. All right, and there's countless others, and currently some other young ladies that you're coaching right now. But you've always had this ability, and one of the really cool parts was you guys spent a lion's share of time in Vancouver. I mean, you had the boys there, and Steve got the national job, so you moved back to Mississauga. I at the time was at Braybend as the director of golf, and I said, "Hey, Ann, come on over. I want you to teach here." But the really cool thing that struck me from the very beginning you got back to Ontario is it was your relationship with girls and junior girls, and how amazing you were able to get these girls to play good golf. And one of the things that it's always to this day is just always something I'm so very impressed with, and very, very, I always admire it in you, is how you're able to grow these young women into great players. What is it? What is the special, like, what's the water you're getting these girls to drink, Ann Carroll, that gets these girls to be so good?
Well, those three girls that you mentioned, honestly, could have gone to the NCAA for other sports. Natalie Gleedall, volleyball. I know that Brianna and Taylor both probably hockey, basketball. I mean, they're multi-sport athletes,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt very lucky that they landed on my lap. And for those kind of athletes, like, it was just about getting out of their way. Letting them like giving them the basic fundamentals. I went to this. It was Jocelyn Barassa a long time ago. Got all the Canadian women professionals together in 1995, and she brought Dee Dee Owens up from the United States. Dee Dee Owens was a top 50 U.S. Golf coach, and she was, I think, the only woman at the time. And she said that she coaches mostly from setup, that she can get somebody to go in the right direction if you get them in the perfectly fundamental setup. And that stuck with me. And I thought, I'm like, there's no way. Like, you have to move them in some direction. You have to help them. And I really took that to heart. And I really worked hard on getting the player to be set up fundamentally perfect to be able to do what their body needed to do. And the other thing I think is really important is to don't deny all of those motor patterns that they have already ingrained their whole lives.
Sure.
With volleyball, like Natalie hit the ball so far. She used a lot of force to with her swing. Her feet were off the ground at impact, and that's what she did. And we allowed her to do that, and she kept hitting long and straight shots and very far shots just from doing that. But I think when you go in there and you change something that's not natural to the athlete, that's where the mix-up gets. So I try my best to really make sure, like my hockey players, for sure, that they're more they like to get loaded up and unload. My dancers, they're a lot of left leg posters. They love to stay on the left leg and post into that left leg. My gymnasts, the same. The dancers, like I was mentioning, you just have to go, because I know one of my players who was a dancer, I started to get her to feel load and unload. She had no clue how to get to the, because I
hold on
side too much.
1 second. It just bugged a little bit. Hold on. So you were talking about oh wait, are you there? There you are. So yeah, there you are. So you were talking about getting your player to load and unload. Yes. And how did that, so you just go back to that story, because I think I know who it is you were talking about.
Yeah, so she's a left leg poster. She's a dancer since she was very young. And I thought that she was just leaning into her left side too much, not using her right side. So I started getting her to feel more of a weight shift. And she lost all her speed. And I thought, okay, something's wrong here. So I got her back to staying centered, staying more, and she's using her left leg to pivot and to produce the power from the ground. And then she got all her speed back to what she can, and she's got more in her tank, even more. So It's just kind of, really listening and getting to know the player. Like what do they like to do? What other motor patterns do they have already? And that you don't want to
That's,
mess around with.
it's funny, as a coach, we often think we have our preferences of what we want to see in our
Hmm.
players. We kind of think, oh, hey, listen, this is this, everybody's got to try and do this, right? And I would agree with you 100%. Like, you have to get to know what your student is. And I loved what you just said there about how you utilized, those girls that came to you with their predispositioned motor pattern skills and try to build a swing around those things. And I think at times we can often get lost in that. And I'll admit that sometimes that happens with myself, but it's really an amazing thing. I think I would think that most of my kids all swing it differently,
Hmm.
but they all have similar things that I like. At
Hmm.
the same time, they're not all going to be carbon copy twins, right? And I
Right.
really think that as these kids grow and get bigger and all this stuff, the consistency of this, and I'm going to go back to what you talked about, the consistency of the fundamentals do not ever get outweighed by anything else.
Right.
And one of the things I listened to a great story about. I interviewed a gentleman this week called Alan Stein. His name's Alan Stein Jr. He's a former basketball trainer, but he got a chance to, go watch Kobe Bryant work out. And Kobe Bryant says, "Okay, meet me at 4." And the guy says, "Well, we have a meeting at 4:30." He goes, "No, 4 in the morning." And he
Oh,
goes, "Okay." So he gets up at 3, gets there at 3:30. He thinks he's early and going to show Kobe he's ready. Yeah, well, no, Kobe's already in the gym, got a sweat on, all that stuff. But what he watched for 2 hours is how diligent Kobe was too. And at this time, arguably the best basketball player in the NBA.
hmm,
And diligent to his ball handling, his footwork for defense, his footwork for shooting his jump shot, his footwork for moving, and the fundamentals and as he calls them, the unseen shots to allow him to get better.
right.
So, you know, as a coach, and this leads me right into number two, I would say by observation of knowing you, you haven't always been a technical kind of coach. You
Hmm.
would say probably you aren't. Now, nowadays, and you even have invested in a little bit of technology now, and that's, so hack motion is something that you've added into your repertoire. What was your motivation about adding hack motion and understanding how the wrist angles and how has it helped you?
Well, I'll have to be honest with you. At the beginning of the year, I sent all my athletes to the golf lab,
Good.
and Johnny and Carson put them through gears, and they put them through force plates and 3D, and just because I know that they're really good at that, and I'm not good at that part, so that's my starting point. I take all the information, I spend tons of time with them interpreting the information for me, and I get a starting point on where I want the girls to go. Sometimes might need a 3 month follow up, but most times it's our plan for the season. And so, I just want to know the most I can with coaching, like
Sure.
to be on top of everything. Maybe not proficient at everything, but to have my little bit of knowledge of everything. So if I know that, say, somebody who it might be cupping at impact, I might think, okay, that's a good place for us to go with them, and then getting learning the knowledge on how to use that machine and get better at it. That's kind of my goal.
Well, that's cool because you know what? I think that shows that you can always be better, right?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
right, and I mean it's my hashtag, right? Better never stops, right? You're always thinking. I gotta totally say I'm exactly the same as you, right? I always want to know the who, what, where, and how, and what's going on, right? So it's I think a lot of times the coaches who hold on to what they think they know and they don't want to expand and get better. And I mean, you were at Scott's training at Credit Valley with me, and I mean there were 28 of us, and I mean they came from across the country to broaden our headspace and
Hmm.
heads kind of go right
Hmm.
with some great information that I think is so important for us as coaches to always seek the learning. And I think at times when we get this messiah complex that we think we know everything and you got to see me because I know everything, I think then you're going to start actually losing clients rather than continuously moving forward and trying to get more clients or being able to utilize the information for your current clients and those in the future.
Absolutely. I
For
agree 100% with that.
So one of the cool things is you got so from you used to be the so when you came back to Ontario from 2007 to 2012 you were the Golf Ontario's women's coach. Uh,
Hmm.
you got to see a lot of great players come through there, and
Yes.
kind of really synonymous with who you were as a coach. So it was really great to watch. And then one of the really cool things in 2012, you got to go move on up to the national program, and the national
Yes.
program decided to have a development team and move, really have dividing lines here where we had a national junior development team and a national women's team. And you got to head up as the national development team's head coach, which
Hmm.
was an amazing opportunity for you.
Yeah.
What were some of the best moments from that opportunity, those 5 years that you can remember?
Wow, like so many moments. Um, and the cool part was my first 2 years, I was assistant coaching with Tristan Malali, and I learned so much from him. And first, I have to say that when I came back from BC in 2005, I felt that I was an instructor in BC, but like I came to Ontario, I felt like, okay, this is, the timing of you giving me the opportunity at Brayben and giving me the platform to do
Yeah,
whatever I wanted to do, was an incredible step for me. So, and then coaching with Ralph Bauer and Dave Woods at the Ontario level was a great step for me. But being at the national level, like for me, the way I got the job was I said kept bugging Jeff Thompson, like I can volunteer my time. I can help here. I know there's a camp in town. I heard I can
yeah,
just totally do that. And I think he got tired of me bugging him. And
nice.
so, and then I was so lucky because Tristan just came over from Ireland at the time,
Mhm.
and oh my gosh, I just learned so much from him. My favorite stories is we went to Carnoustie for the British Amateur, and we had like an incredible team. Like all of those girls are playing incredible golf still. One of them is Brooke Henderson,
Nice.
and but doing a practice round with Tristan in his close to his
His
home
element,
country.
in his element, right?
Oh my God. Like I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and just the different shots that he was telling the girls that they need that week, the different shots that they need for the morning draw versus the afternoon draw, like
Wow.
things that, just blew my mind. And I just learned so much about changing conditions of the course that he is so good at, and talk about detailed yardage book. Like these are incredible work of arts down
Wow.
to the exact tree. It's not just a pine tree, it's another kind of tree.
That's
It's
pretty wild.
Yeah.
Those are the things that you kind of you're in awe while you're sitting there as it's happening live,
Hmm.
because you're kind of going, what? Like this is insane. And now now you're like recounting it, 8 years later, and you're going, the stuff that you learned from those experiences, right?
Hmm.
How you pass it forward to your present students, it's just seamless, right? Because it's like the stuff that we gain and you tuck away in your brain space, you don't even realize how much you're going to be able to use it
Right.
in the future,
Right.
right? And there's some great experiences from that. And here's a really funny question. There's more than one different kind of pine tree, according to Brad Lawrence. Ha ha ha.
Yes. According to Tristan, there's a lot of different species of trees out there
Yes,
that you
one of
should
them
draw.
Douglas fir. I was just yay. That
Yeah.
was Douglas fir tree. There you go. Anyways, listen, this is awesome. I mean, I'm sure you've got even more stories from we can get into a little bit later in this, but I've got a couple more questions that are really cool. You know, you've been working at Lambton Golf Club for 7 years now.
10 years.
10. Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
time flies.
Yeah.
So you've been working at Lambton for 10 years, and they really like what you've got. You've got a really nice relationship with the golf club, right? And
Yes.
what do you think is the key message you can send out to anybody that, maybe a coach here watching this, that you have with your club for a teaching professional to have longevity in a prosperous, instructional programs for the club?
Give the membership what they want. Listen to them. I think knowing your audience there. The cool thing about being at a club is you have the access to the golf course. And
Yeah,
at Lambton, we have a 9-hole academy course as well, which is like a coach's dream out there.
I bet.
I spend more time on the golf course, which I love too. I offer a lot of half-day camps, full-day camps at Lambton. I offer a lot of seasonal coaching packages. It's really fun to just be creative and to put stuff out there. And you're like, okay, I wonder if this is gonna get any traction. And it's like, okay, I have to stop at membership now because there's too many people.
Right.
So, and just knowing, and then I love the beginner putting lessons. I just have a compassion for the learner that doesn't matter if they're learning to make a 3-foot putt or if they're going to hit it 50 yards and then now they're hitting it 70 yards, whatever. I just get so much enjoyment out of both ends of the spectrum for sure.
Well, I mean, the really cool part is that to have a 9-hole course at your beck and call where you can go down and use it because it's probably not utilized as much as as it should be. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, just like a coach's dream. So I mean, that's fantastic. And I mean, I know that if I had that, I'd be like, we're not going to the range today. We're going down to the par 3 course, and let's see how you can flight some irons and let's play from different tees and
Yeah.
get the players out there and get your competitors going, your competitive kids, trying different shots and doing all these things, which they never really have an opportunity because they always think it's the range and then the course.
Yes.
Never
Yes.
practice on the golf course very often, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think what do you find is, and you would say that would be between block and randomized practice. How do you structure a randomized practice to get the maximum results from your players?
I get them to set it up themselves.
Whoa, I like
So
that.
the block is pretty much my domain. Like this is what we want to work on. And then the girls decide within their group where the randomized and the competition part comes. So then they own it. So, they really because sometimes, I make up stuff that I'm wondering, is that going to really, is that a good drill? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's terrible drill. But they're so nice, they just keep doing it, right? So
Right.
like,
Well, that's just
but
it.
I really allow that. I really want them to own everything. And they have such an imagination for competition and for play that they make up some really cool things that I'll use in my next group. So I usually have a group of 4 or 5 girls in the younger age and then the older age, and then I'll do a competition with the older girls to see if that randomized competition that the younger girls set up is going to work for them. And so yeah, yeah. So I don't do
That's
very much. I don't do very much work. They do it all.
Hey, coaches, listen up. She's dropping serious nuggets of knowledge here. This is like steal this stuff and use it. My gosh, wow.
Yeah.
Don't give away all your secrets, Carol. I mean,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
keep some for the family, eh? Come on,
Okay.
keep it in
Yeah.
the family.
I'll text you
Oh,
later.
too funny. All right, it's that time. It's my favorite time. It's my
Uh-oh.
fast. And I know when I talk to you at the party, you're like, uh-oh, what's going to happen, right? Because, as I do my homework and I try to find some things out of here, right? But, there's some interesting stuff that I know about you already.
Yeah.
Really kind of funny. But this is something I don't think anybody's ever asked you, and I would really love to know. If you weren't a golf coach, what would you do?
Oh
Like,
my
weren't
gosh.
golf, what would you be doing?
I think honestly it would be something going back to criminology.
Okay.
I think my instincts to go away to school uh, in the in that department still hold true. I really really enjoy that part.
You
Maybe a
like the
policewoman.
Yeah, you like solving the cases, right? So I mean, actually,
Yes,
you're kind of doing that anyways when you're a golf coach because you got to solve a lot of problems for a lot of people, right?
absolutely, and at home too.
Yeah. Oh, this is true. Exactly. Right now, hey, hold on. Those two boys of yours, they're as docile as they come. Now, mind you, I don't hear any of the any of the horror stories, right? But
Right,
like, I mean, they seem as harmless as a mouse, like honestly and truly, right?
they really
Wonderful.
are.
But it's just I can't believe there'd be any trouble. All right, this is an interesting thing. I want to think. You got to think about. Steve just got home, and he's holding 2 tickets in his hand. Okay, and they're airline tickets. All right, and you're gonna go on a wine tour. Something I know you don't. I know you don't really love wine much, but listen. Here are your options: Napa, Tuscany, Spain, Portugal, Chile, or somewhere else? Where would you like to go?
New Zealand.
Really? Amazing.
Yes.
I didn't even come up with Australia. Totally different thing in
Yes.
the hemisphere.
That's totally on our bucket list.
Yeah, cool.
Oh, I think because just of what we've heard from that country, the people at Lambton have gone there and come back and have really enjoyed the Sauvignon Blanc, which is one of our favorite wines that we like, and the amazing golf courses there. I think
Oh,
that's crucial. Yeah.
yeah. Go play Cape Kidnappers and out on those fingers of supposedly it's just unbelievable, right? So
Oh, I can't wait.
exactly. Well,
Can't wait.
I didn't come up with South Africa, Australia, or New Zealand, and you picked New Zealand, which is great. I think that's fantastic. I think that's actually a pretty good trip. Um, who's Ann Carroll's hero?
My hero is my dad. You know, he every time he dropped me off at the golf course, he said, "I want you to go into the pro shop and ask them what the course record is." And I was like, "Oh yeah, Dad." Like I was 17 years old. I'm going to walk into the pro shop and ask them what the course record is, and I don't even know anybody in the pro shop. Like that's not happening.
I love
But
it. You ever
but
do it?
I think sort of around maybe if I was playing well, and I'm like, so what is the course record here? But I think it's important that he just knew there was no limits. And this is a guy who didn't even go past grade 8. You know, he just had such an incredible passion for just striving to be your best. And he was my number one supporter. And he just, nothing was impossible to him. You could do anything you could.
He was such a wonderful, kind man.
Yes.
He really was. And stories, some great stories that, about just being a superintendent and some of the things he's experienced and built. And I mean, had great, history in contributing to Ontario golf.
Yes.
And it was pretty cool. So to hear that, I just would love to see the look on your face when he said to you every time to go check out what the course record is, right?
Oh, so funny.
Do you have any course records? Did you ever shoot a course record?
I think on the Futures Tour, it was the third round and I was in 50th place and I shot 66 the last day and finished 5th. And then funny enough, my mom and dad drove down to York, Pennsylvania to watch me play. And it was one of those days where like there's just I can hit a 3-iron to 2 inches if I wanted to.
Oh my God.
That kind of thing. And
wow.
so I think I have this I think I still have the course record there. Which was really cool. And it started to get like I was off in the morning because I was in 50th place and the weather started to get bad and my dad's like, "Oh my God, you're gonna win this tournament." Anyway, it was really exciting and fun to
awesome.
do that. Yeah.
What a great story. So, all right. So what kind of music would best describe your coaching style? Would it be smooth jazz? Would it be little new wave? Would it be some top 40? Would it be hip hop? What?
I'm kind of with the top 40.
Top
40.
Yeah.
Right. And I think I love it, but I think it's relevant to be with the girls in the top 40, like with their top 40.
Sure.
And I think we're moving on and having a good time and driving to the music. I think that's our genre.
That's super cool. I love it. I love it. All right. So unfortunately, you got marooned on a deserted island.
Okay.
Right? Now, you're allowed to have 3 things on this deserted island. One of them is not a boat, but what would you have? What would you need to have with you? 3 things on that island with you to help you survive till you get rescued.
Okay. I think I'd have a bottle of wine.
Okay.
I think I'd have some sushi.
Okay.
And I think I would have maybe some sunscreen.
All right. Hey, there you go. So you don't get burned. Eh? There you go.
Yeah.
Protect that freckled skin of yours. There you go.
Exactly.
Well, that's awesome. It's funny. I asked somebody else that question. They said, "Can I have a boat?" I was like, "No, you can't have a boat." Right? But you said I can have three things. I said, oh my gosh, then boat's not one of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's really kind of funny. All right, now here's my fun question. My other fun question. All right, so one of the things I love about you is you do multiple camps throughout the year for your kids. For your girls, you go down to Florida and you give them great experiences, right? And you've always kind of done this. However, and you've become quite prolific at it and very good at it, and it goes pretty smooth and all that stuff. And but the very first one you ran to North Carolina did not go as planned. And I wanted to ask you, do you always triple check you have your passport now?
Well, I think it was Steve's passport because he was driving me over the border.
Oh, it was Steve's passport. Okay, well, enlighten us, because I was
Okay.
told that you guys forgot your passport and you had to take a cab across the border
Right.
because you couldn't get in across at Buffalo.
I can see Natalie on there.
Yeah, told me.
So it was, I think, Taylor, Natalie, and Scott,
Yep.
and just, I think Jackson was in the car with me, and Steve forgot Jackson and his passport. So he had to let us, and we got to about Niagara Falls, and then we just realized, and I was not the nicest person in the world to Steve at the time, as Natalie can attest to that. But so we realized, okay, what are we going to do here? Our flight's in like 3 hours. We have to get these girls across the border. So we got to Fort Erie and we hailed a cab and said, just step on the pedal. Let's get to the Buffalo airport.
Oh my God.
And then I think we almost missed connection in one of the airports also that we were going to. That was my dry run. I'm a lot better at it now.
No, that's good, because that's one of the things. I mean, you sit there and, hey, listen. I actually did the exact same thing. I was supposed to go to the PGA show. We were stuck on the bridge at the Peace Bridge at Fort Erie in Buffalo because of the truck threw its tranny, and it was only one lane. We're sitting there, and we sat for almost an hour, and then like halfway through it, I realized I left my cell phone at home.
Oh.
No way we were ever going to make that plane, right? And all that stuff. So it was like, I was like freaking out, but like, when did I ever leave my cell phone, right? And
Yeah.
oh
That's
my
not,
God. Things
that's
that
not
you
like you.
panic, right? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, right? It's the panic. Oh my gosh, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right. One of the things you've had the opportunity to do, and this was something that people didn't really get an opportunity, like you got to watch Brooke Henderson in rise, like from 13 up. You kind of got to watch this girl just keep going. And what was it about Brooke that just set her aside from all these other girls? What was it?
She never put any limits on herself. For example, one story, I think we forgot that she finished third in the U.S. Open at Pinehurst in 2014.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Michelle Wie won. Brooke Henderson finished third, and she was 16 years old. So I talked to her like a couple of days after. I said, Brooke, amazing finish at the U.S. Open. She said, Ann, I think I should have won that tournament. And I'm like, wow. Like,
Really?
I think on the 15th hole, she was one shot off the lead going into the last 3 holes. So that's just her mentality. Like she didn't go into a tournament without thinking she was going to win the tournament. And another really interesting thing about Brooke was she just, like Tristan was saying the other night, her practice was so natural. So it was I think she was 13 or 14 at the time. It was the Ontario Junior up at Shelburne, and she was in the last group, of course, and she had like a 7-shot lead. And I went to the driving range to get her, and not too many people know the story, but so I stood from afar just to watch her, and there was a pile of balls, every station. People had left their balls and went off, and so she was going to the first station and hitting a shot low, and then skipping over 3 stations and hitting a shot high, and then going back to the second station and hitting a punch shot, and then going over and then teeing up a driver. And I stood back and wished I had filmed this at that time, but she just naturally was just getting ready for every shot that she could encounter that day. And I stood back with amazement. This 14-year-old girl just not just, hitting balls to reassure that she's going to play well that day. She was just really getting herself ready to play, and went off and won. I think she shot 69 the last day. But that's the kind of practicer she was. Like you can even watch her on the LPGA. A lot of times I've had the opportunity to watch her play now, and just she's different. If you really watch her habits out there, she's very different with the other players. She's not the robot hitting balls. She's hitting a low shot, high shot, left shot, changing targets all the time. Just an amazing girl, and just a really lovely girl, lovely person.
Oh, without a doubt. In
Yeah.
the time I've interacted with her, I mean, and spoken with her, I mean, it's nothing but absolute, rainbows and unicorns. The kid is as sweet as they come, right?
Yeah.
What a great ambassador for Canadian golf to turn how many girls on to play this sport, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you couldn't ask for a better ambassador. And the really cool thing is though, she's all sweet and all that stuff, but man, she is a killer. She does not like to lose, and she'll run you over, right? Was there ever a time that you had to try and rein her in? That was, I know letting her go is important, but was there ever a time where she was kind of getting ahead of herself that you had to pull her back? And what was that advice, or how did that go? And was it, beneficial?
I don't think I ever had to, because she did it
Really?
so with grace. She never overstepped. I mean, I was in Colombia one time with her at the South American Championships, and she was about 15, and the other girls in her the last group last day, she was leading the tournament, and they were 22 and 25. And I felt like I had to be a bit of a bodyguard that day, just because I felt that they were potentially going to take advantage of this young girl. And no, she did it. She never did that, Doug. She just she did it with her own personality and her own composure, and she never looked like you had to rein her in ever.
Wow. That,
Yeah.
I mean, these are all really cool things, because I've gotten stuff from both you, Derek, and Tristan, just about how really amazing this young woman is. And I mean, we all have to remember how young she still is, right?
I know.
And yet she's, where she is in golf, and will she, play another 10 years and they'll say, Lirino Ochoa, I'm done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, that same tournament, I know that Derek talked about all the Sprites that she was drinking. And so that very tournament, her caddy was bringing her chocolate bars.
No.
Oh yeah. So, it was like, how many chocolate bars are in your golf bag right now?
Oh my goodness.
There must have been like 6 or 7 chocolate bars. But she was saying, I'm just waiting for until the 18th hole, and then I have one on the 18th hole. So
what kind of chocolate bars were they?
they were some kind of Colombian chocolate
really?
that she was eating. So, but she's just so lovely to work with. I know the very first time that I did meet her, she had this little red suitcase, and I thought, Brooke, you're going for a week, right? And she's like, yeah, I've got everything in here. And it was like the smallest suitcase I've ever seen in my life. And the wheels were broken, so she had to like carry it like a purse, and it was kind of funny. But it was the Canadian Junior out in it was in Richmond, and her tee time was, this is when she didn't really have any training with Golf Canada yet. She had a 2:00 tee time, and I was there with some other players at 9:00, and there was Brooke on the putting green. 5 hours.
5 hours ahead of her time.
And no sunscreen. So by the time she teed off, how fair she is. The time she teed off, she was like a tomato.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, well, about 10 o'clock, I thought, Brooke, why don't you take a little break, kind of like take your time, and because you still have a long way to go. But anyway, that was a good one too.
That was a good one. That is for sure. So funny thing was, you switched Steve, your husband, from lefty to righty. And I was the lucky recipient of the fact that I got his golf clubs when I had just started.
Oh, that's funny.
Right. But it was interesting. What precipitated you to switch him from a lefty to a righty? What was the what like? And he bought in. I think you just had him totally over the moon because he was in love with you, and he just want to say no. But what was, you don't often hear of people switching people from right to left. What was, what was your thinking?
Well, once I got past the point that I was going out with this incredibly amazing person,
Yes.
I actually looked at his golf swing, and he stood over the ball left-handed, and he milked that grip. And I thought, when is he gonna, like, it was worse than Sergio. I'm like, when is he gonna take the club back? Like, when is this gonna happen? And so I'm like, you know what, hon, I think let's just try right-handed. He goes, oh yeah, like I'm gonna switch over. I'm like, well, let's just try. So like he was just like, goofing around, took my 5-wood, put his grip on perfect, didn't move it, and hit a 5-wood about 180 with a draw. And I was like, well, what do you think? He's like, well, I got to go ask one of my Cease Ferguson. I got to go ask him and see, what he thinks. So anyway, he's a solid 15 handicap now. He really couldn't break 90 before. And
No.
he's really enjoying.
I remember, so Steve, when I started playing, Steve and Philip, his best friend, right? They would take me to Sawwet here in Oakville and go visit Mr. Patterson, and because Mr. Patterson really liked Steve, and so he got us up to play on a Saturday morning and stuff like that. And like I remember I'd been playing golf for like maybe 2 or 3 years, and I think this is the year that I broke. I was just before I played in, so they take me to Sawwet, and like I'm hitting it 80 yards past the two of them, and honestly, Steve's as big as, like at that time he was still pretty big guy, and like as far as like weight and strength and stuff like that, and like I'm thinking, why are you such a powder puff? Like this is just not going right. But that makes sense now that he's swinging it the proper way, and with a little bit more power. That's a great story. So you met Steve when you were working at Mississauga Golf Club for the icon in this industry, Mr. Gar Hamilton. Do you have any good Gar Hamilton stories? Because he was a great player in his own right up until his retirement, even afterwards. I mean, did you learn anything from him as a player, or did you witness anything from him that you kind of thought, that's a good piece?
Well, Gar didn't like to share too much.
Well, yeah, we know that.
So I'd be like, what are you working on? He goes, it's a bit of a secret. Like, okay. But no, I learned a lot from Gar. Like he was an incredible player. I got to play quite a bit of golf with him and Matthew Houston, who was there at the time, which was really cool. And such an amazing golf course. And but he didn't like to be in the shop. He was in there, came in, put his keys on the desk, and grabbed my shoulder and said, "Hey, you got to catch me out on the driving range." So I got to see him hit a lot of balls, and he was really from the George Knudson school, and kind of that it was really, really cool to watch him. He was such a great ball striker, and still is, and playing so well still.
I know.
But he gave me a great platform there, and I remember my first lesson. He's like, "Okay, Ann, you got six people out there on the chipping green, and go and give a lesson." I'm like, I'd have never given a lesson before. He goes, "Well, just chip for them. Just show them how you chip." That was my first lesson. Honestly, I think I wish I'd give everybody their money back my first year of teaching, because it was, I would drive home I lived with a friend by Weston Golf Club, but I would literally drive home at Mississauga. I'd be so exhausted from teaching to try to come up with stuff for people to do. I didn't know what I was doing back then.
Well, I mean, I think we all started somewhere along those. I still think my very first half-hour lesson took an hour and a half, right? Like, no, Mrs. Weinstein, you've got it. Oh, just try this a little bit more. Okay, hold on one second. Let's try this. And it's like,
yeah,
the things you are, and this is one of the really cool things is like, watching you over the time that I've known you, and seeing how your teaching and coaching has evolved. You mentioned a little earlier, when you went to BC with Steve, when he was the executive director, you guys got to, experience West Coast life, which was amazing. I mean, and Nancy and Uncle Don, your mother and father-in-law, they live out there. I mean, 87 and 85, and they're still like, they're 65, right? It seems like embalming, or they're like, the what's it, the fountain of life is out there.
Absolutely.
But one of the things you did when you were there is you said you became a pretty good teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Who were your greatest influences in BC that helped you get that? Because you were at Seymour Golf Club, and it really helped hone your teaching ability. Who were the most influential people out there that really helped you get over, do that?
Mike Hebron, like he came out to BC. The BC PGA had incredible people come to their, what used to be these teaching summits that I think we all miss sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Mike Hebron was a great influencer for me. And then reading his books, and some other professionals that came out and just gave us what they had, and we took it from there. And it was kind of a piece by piece thing for me, just kind of putting my own thing on it too, and coming as a player. I always, in some ways, for a half-hour lesson, I always made sure that I had some kind of performance side of it all as well. So it wasn't purely just technical in my lessons. I always wanted to find out, how can they perform better, and so I always managed to put that in there as well.
Well, one of the things that amazes me about listening to all this today in your talk is about how you've used a very broad spectrum of coaching style to get the best out of your players. And what are some of the key elements that are necessary to build, a successful, junior girls elite program that you have?
I think, I think it's all pretty much word of mouth. And I think that a lot of the parents walk the fairways and talk about all the coaches and stuff like that. So I've been very lucky that I actually have a really good group of a really amazing group of parents right now that, give me the ins and outs of people that would like to come into my academy. And I think at this stage of my life, I just want really fun people. I want really positive parents. And I have that, which is the coolest thing. Over the years, I haven't had that necessarily, but I think I'm really selective. We are like I only like to have about 8 or 9 players in my academy at the most, and I love my small groups. And I just want to make sure everyone is there for the right reasons. So I interview parents and I interview the kids, and I want them to know, why do you want to come to our academy?
Right.
And a lot of times you don't hear the right answers, and so it's kind of a red flags. And so, I've turned people away just because of that.
Well, you know what? That it's an interesting point, because what are some of the bigger mistakes that you see junior parents make in their development for their children?
Well, I think some of them live through their kids, obviously, especially some of the good players that have coached them. If they were a good player growing up and they've coached them up until a young age, I think that can be sometimes a mistake. But I think we have to educate our parents to know how to create proper feedback. Like, what do you say when the kid gets in the car and he's had his worst round of golf? Like, but at the same time, not to have the blurred lines. Like, the best parents I know are the ones that just drive them there, feed them, tell them how much they love them and how much they love to watch them play. And regardless of what they shoot, it's all fine. And
that's absolutely the best words ever. I love watching you play, and then shut up.
Yeah.
And,
but I do like to give them skills, though. I do like to get them involved. Like, I'll give them jobs. Like, I'll say, so-and-so's alignment gets off when she goes to the right side of the driving range. So what you can do is help her get her alignment sticks down better, help her, just give her a little feedback with that. Because they do like to have a bit of a job as well.
I would agree with you 100%. Parent involvement is super important from a standpoint of, hey, they're the ones that spend most of the lion's share time with their kids. And it's really an important time that, like, if you're going to involve them, you're the coach, you're the parent, like you're the coach, meaning you, Ann, and they're the parents. That's the relationship, right?
Yes.
You have to instill the fact that, look, the best parents are the ones that know how to drive, drop, love, pick up, and then wait for them to ask the questions.
Yes.
Oh, say what's going on, and you know what, and let them tell the story of what's going on, and then be able to be the parent who's there. Because the thing is the car ride home is the scariest thing ever for a kid, whether they're playing soccer, hockey, baseball, basketball, golf, whatever it is, right? Because they're locked in this thing and they don't want to hear it compared about anybody, or what'd you do, what were you thinking here? Well, I was thinking I was going to make birdie, but I hit it in the water and made double.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
because I have a good frame shape, right? But like,
Yeah.
are they trying any less hard?
Yeah.
No. So it's a really, it's such a slippery slope, and I really appreciate the candidness on that. So it's a pretty interesting thing. I love where you are with your academy. I love that you have a very family feel to it in terms of your girls and who's with you, and how you're basically doing it. The saying I like to say is, you're doing your game your way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really testament to the fact that you've been able to figure it out over these years.
Yes.
And really figure out the art form of what makes it good for you. And that's one of the things I got to tell you. I kind of sit there and I look at you and I go, man, you're so good at just doing it the way Ann wants to do it. And it comes with having a great partner in my cousin, in your husband.
Yes.
Your guys' relationship is a testament to a wonderful marriage. I mean, you got great kids. And the really cool thing is you guys always seem to always are in communication, always talking all so much. And I really think in a relationship that's so super important.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the really cool things about it is it permeates, because it lets you be you on the lesson tee, and it permeates into these girls who are so very fortunate to have you as their coach. One other person that I want to give a shout out to, who's a very integral part of your coaching side, and she's done a lot of really great things in golf, is the one and only Liz Hoffman.
Mm-hmm.
You talk a little bit, in the time that we have left, a little bit about who Liz is to you in your coaching, and how she benefits so many of these girls, because she's such a wonderful person, not just from the fact she's had two sons who are amazing golfers, and the fact she's an icon in golf, at a member of Thornhill, former athletic director at U of T, but how has she helped you, Ann Carroll?
Well, she grounds me. She brings me down in a positive way.
Sure.
I don't think people know that she's a multi-sport athlete herself. She swam for the University of Toronto. And she coached field hockey at the Olympic level. So she has a vast amount of experiences with the age group that we're working with, but also years after. And she's just in tune with so much. Like when I get really into the technical side, she'll get more into the performance side. So we really yin and yang it really well. And one of really cool stories about Liz was, we were watching. I don't know if you remember a player called her name was Annika Haynes.
Okay. Yep.
Really tall girl.
Yeah.
Great player. She played Indianapolis, and so we're watching her play, and she has this kind of frumpy skirt on, which is down past her knee, and we're like, and I'm just watching her swing, I'm just watching her play, and Liz is like, that skirt is not right. I'm like, what about the skirt? It's just not right. It's too long. She can't be Annika in that skirt. And Annika is a very bouncy, she's got a great bounce to her step, but like I would not have thought of the skirt.
No. But Liz finds and looks at the skirt, and she's like, oh my gosh, we got to change it.
Yes.
And you know what?
That's not you. Don't ever wear that skirt again.
Right. Well, it takes that person to be able to find that in you, right? To be able to say, wait a minute, hold on, because you're thinking, oh, everything's fine, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? That's an awesome Liz Hoffman story. The reason I get in there for you is because we're going to lose you in about 30 seconds, because it's been an hour, and we get cut out after an hour. So
okay.
I gotta end this really shortly, but listen, thank you so very much for coming on tonight. Everybody, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
It is my cousin, and I'm so happy to have her in my life. I love you to death. I can't thank you enough.
Love you too, Bug.
Have an awesome night, and we'll talk to you soon.